Okay, hi Earthlings. In this video we're looking at inverses and inverse function. So this definition that we have here basically says that when you've got an inverse, if you take the function of that inverse, you end up going back to x. So it's basically the function that takes something back to its original value. Now the way to solve for an inverse is just to rearrange to make it x equals, and then swap the function in x signs. So whether you swap them first or not, it doesn't really matter, but for instance this one here, what we could do is instead of writing f of x, we could write x, and instead of writing x, we could write f of x. And then we solve for f of x, and that will give us the inverse function. So actually I'll write it as f inverse of x. Okay, so we'll subtract 3 from both sides. So that will give us 2 inverse f of x equals x minus 3, and divide both sides by 2, so f of inverse x equals x minus 3 divided by 2. And a way we can test to see if our inverse is correct is by substituting this back into our original function instead of x. And if we get x as our answer, then we know we're correct. So f of f inverse of x is 2, and then instead of x we'll write x minus 3 over 2 plus 3. So expanding our brackets, we'll have the 2's will cancel out, so we'll have x minus 3 plus 3, and then x minus 3 plus 3 is 0, so we end up with x plus 0, which is x. So because we've ended up with x, we know that our answer here is correct. Okay, so that's like our check, but that's our actual answer. Right, question 2, obtain the inverse. So let's swap f of x with x, and let's swap our x with our inverse sign. And we'll do the same underneath. Okay, so we're going to have to split this fraction up, so I'm going to times both sides by the bottom, and that will give us x times the inverse function minus 3. Okay, and so we'll expand our brackets, so we've got x times the inverse function minus 3x equals what we had before. And now I'm going to get all of my inverse functions on one side and everything else on the other side. So we're going to have x inverse function minus 2 inverse equals 3x plus 5, and I'm going to factorize out my inverse function. So we're going to write inverse of x and factorize out x and negative 2, and what that lets us do is divide by x minus 2 to leave us with just our inverse function. And so inverse function is equal to 3x plus 5 divided by x minus 2, and that's it. Now just take a bit of a punt here that I've got the right answer, but if you really wanted to know if you were correct or not, you'd substitute it back into here, but you'd have a little bit of a time trying to get to simplify that, but that's our inverse function. Okay, so have a look at exercise A 1.03 or 2.6 if you're in the old, and same as always, if the first few are easy, go into the harder ones. Make sure you mark your work please, and make sure that you tick off your progression and make a note of which exercises that you are doing and have done. Thank you.